KTU Cares, a salute to local heroes.
What kind of world do you want? Think anything. History starts now.
On KTU Cares, Bartell hanging out with you, and we always bring in great people from the community doing great things. And today and this morning, Michael Feldman is here. He's the president and founder of World of Humanity. Hey, Michael, how's it going?
Good. Thank you, Bartell, for having me.
It is really great to have you here. And I got the email from you just a few weeks ago, and I was very impressed on World of Humanity and what it's all about. And I said, why don't I bring Mike in for a KTU Cares? So let's do it. Tell me a little bit about World of Humanity.
Well, first I want to tell you how important your show is, how inspirational, and I hope it really energizes the people that listen to you, because I was energized.
And you know, they not only listen on KTU at 103.5, but they listen all over the country on KTU.com, because we're streaming and we're on iHeartRadio, so we have friends and listeners that listen to us not only in the New York City area, but all over the country.
That's fantastic, and I really hope to take everything in and actually act on it.
Sure.
Some of these stories that you hear are so inspirational.
Yeah.
And so worldofhumanity.com, it's a website that I created where community leaders can bring real positive change to the neighborhoods, and neighbors could help each other. So this is where the charity organizations can create projects that help their causes and engage people to help. It's a website you can organize a donation fund, meal deliveries, charity events. You could bring any type of aid to people who really need it. You could see the effects of it directly. It's a place we could do single acts of kindness, and how many times we need that in the world.
Absolutely.
So I call this basically a good deed engagement platform.
Oh, that's great. Now, tell me about your experience as a whole. How did you get involved with World of Humanity, and what is your kind of story all about, and what led up to where you're at?
Well, I've been an entrepreneur all my life.
Right.
And with my business, I've been always trying to give back to charities, to causes. It's rewarding, really. And I felt that it wasn't really personal enough. It didn't have that direct impact on people that I really wanted to see. And I think that's the same with a lot of people that I've talked to. They really want to see where their money goes. They want to see their accountability.
Right.
So I wanted to create a solution for this. I'm a solutions guy. I come from an IT background.
Right.
So, but this giving was so close to me, and I wanted to have that direct impact for myself and for people around me. I would say my inspiration is one person. It's actually events that happened throughout my life, but one particular person had triggered this idea that I decided to develop this website. His name is Mendel Solomon, and he's a local religious leader with a pretty decent following, a couple of hundred people. I think now it's a bit more, maybe by a couple of hundred more. But the guy is so genuine. He's so honest, caring, and you could say this about a lot of people, but he makes you feel so special, like you're the only person in the room. He's yours.
Right.
And mind you, he's got a family of his own, 6 kids, and he's got a community to run.
And the juggling act that he must put on to make sure the family's okay in the community too,
Absolutely, exactly. But his actions to the community that I've seen him do and participated in directly affect people in such a significant way that it moves people. It moved me so much. Like, to give you an example, there was a young woman, and she was in a hospital, terminally ill with cancer. And her husband, he stayed with her, by her side, and besides him being there, he's got, in his family, had 3 little children. And to them, life has to continue.
Sure.
May not be as usual, but it has to.
Good point,
It has to continue. So with his father not being there to cook and to do daily activities, it was very difficult situation for them, but a real situation. These situations happen everywhere. So what he did is, I'm talking about this person, Mendel. He organized a food drive where many of the members of the community, strangers by the way, most people didn't know this family, they delivered hot dinners to that house every day.
Wow.
Tutors came in, they spent time with the kids, helping with schoolwork, with homework. And after I spoke, once that woman came back from the hospital, and I spoke to her, you can't imagine the type of gratitude and the type of honesty, appreciation that she had in her eyes.
Mm-hmm.
Said how really the support of the community really helped her through this whole ordeal, and she was eternally grateful.
And these are great inspiration stories for you for World of Humanity, and a lot of the reason why you created, World of Humanity. And Michael, if you could, you mentioned a little bit about donation funds, and there's a lot of sites out there that allow you to raise money. There are a lot of crowdfunding sites and some very specific to help out people in need.
Very, very true. Yes, indeed. But our site really focuses on the community. Yes, we have a donation module, we have a petition module, and there's so many other features within the site that concentrate on the community life, on the single acts of kindness. So with these tools that we have, you're able to do these types of meal deliveries that I'm able to do.
Wow.
And they could bring things to people, what they really need, when they need it, and they see the direct impact that you have on them. So yes, I agree. Charities are phenomenal. They're great, but it's really, really difficult to see that direct impact, and that's why I actually encourage charities to use this system for their own good deeds, for their own projects that they create. To tell you the truth, honestly, I've lived in the poorest neighborhoods of Brooklyn, and I've lived in and continue to live actually in one of the most affluent neighborhoods in New Jersey. And the need to help and support one another exists in both extremes and everywhere in between. It really, really starts from the family within, with your friends. Those are the core people who are going to help you. But the next most effective source of help is from your neighbors, from the communities. There's some really tough neighborhoods out there.
Yeah.
And
sure.
And you might think that it's too far-fetched to have this a reality in those neighborhoods. People fend for themselves. There's violence. But I personally witnessed and experienced this human factor that transcends religion, race, gender, social economic status, you name it. When I was living in I don't want to depends how you describe those types of neighborhoods.
Sure.
Tough neighborhood in Brooklyn.
Tough neighborhood. Yeah.
And there was I lived during my college years, 1996. Did I just give out my age? And I was taking care of my grandmother. My grandmother lived with me. We also my whole core family lived with me as well. But I'm the one who usually took care of my grandmother. I knew all her illnesses. I gave her meds. I gave her insulin shots. And there was a snowstorm, not snowstorm, it was like 17 snowstorms in one winter.
Mm-hmm.
And my grandmother was having a stroke. I recognized the signs. And I called the ambulance. The ambulance took her away, but she didn't speak any English. And she wouldn't know how to explain any of this history. I'm the one who took care of her. I know everything. So I need to get to that hospital as soon as possible.
Sure.
So I come out, and I couldn't even find my car. It was buried under a ton of snow. I grabbed my shovel. I anticipated, so I grabbed my shovel. I come in, and I started shoveling, and there's another person that was shoveling right next to me, and he had people that were in his car also. And then he saw this look on my face, this
But you had to get some
frazzled
right,
look, yeah. And he comes over to me, "Are you okay?" I said, "Well, I explained to him the story." He goes, "Okay." So he takes his shovel instead of unshoveling his car.
Sure.
He starts working on mine, and he's got people that are waiting for him, and they looked like they were ready to go somewhere too. They needed to get somewhere. He stood there for about 45 minutes, cracking the ice, opening, and helped me get to my grandmother. This type of community service, that's not community service. It's this type of direct
Yeah. Interaction with people to help them through their lives.
Yeah, and these are strangers, and we should always do that. We should always be there. And these are the people who live in communities, in your own communities. This is where it starts, really.
One of the greatest things that I had heard you say earlier in the show, and even when I was reading up on World of Humanity, is a lot of really great, unique features. What can you actually do on World of Humanity when you go to the site?
Features that we have are really unique. I mean, there is no website that has these types of features in them. And like I said, they're really focused on this community aspect. So one of the features is to create meal delivery schedule. Like with this feature, you could organize who will bring what and when. For example, I could create a schedule for the next 2 weeks. Every day, someone will specify where to deliver it, their dietary restrictions, best time to deliver it, any special instructions, and deliver it to that person in need. So all those people who really want to help to bring something, they'll know what to bring and when, so that you don't get 2 meals or more than 3 meals per day. Right. So 2 people don't bring the same thing
so
at
it's
the same time.
It's organized properly, yes.
You're right. It's really an organizational tool that allows people to bring and that's the key factor, what they really need, not just what you think they need. Bring something is very similar to the meal scheduler, and this tool allows to specify exactly what that person needs, and he may need, instead of food, a pair of socks.
Yeah.
So we have a list that you, as an organizer, can create a list of the things that these people need, and think of it as a bridal registry, right? But only for people in need.
Sure.
You have a list of things that they need, and people could come in, put their name on it, put down in the schedule exactly what they're going to bring to that person, so you don't bring a duplicate.
Sure, exactly, yeah.
Another one is petitions, getting signatures for a cause. Like, we all know what petitions are and how important they are to collect signatures. But a lot of times, they're not very effective because the actual signatures on paper are, often forged and really hard to get. Pen and paper to get around and asking people.
Sure, yeah.
It's tough on the street.
Yeah.
With this digital age, getting digital signatures with real verified accounts, that gives a lot of more credibility to that petition. And of course, we have the fundraising module. And that's very useful and has all the common functionality and allows people to set up fundraisers. It allows you to provide your own account, put your own account in there, and the donations, all of the 100% of the donations that you get goes to the organizer.
It's great. Michael Feldman is here today. He's the president and founder of World of Humanity. And as I told you before, we're going to say a couple of times during the show, where do people go to be in touch with you, and obviously the website?
Yeah, absolutely. And you can directly email me at mike@worldofhumanity.com. I'm here to help everyone.
And you hear this all the time. What about the security issues that go along with this, and how do I know to whom my donation is going to, Michael?
Yeah, security is really, really important, especially at this digital day and age. Typically, the person who's asking you for a donation, for support, he is setting this up through PayPal.
Right.
So PayPal itself has their own verification process, and it's pretty rigorous. As a person who's donating, it's a security blanket to see that this person it has a validated PayPal account, and you're giving to that person. Plus, we also have our own voluntary validation method. You could register to a website as a person or as a charity or as some kind of organization. As for a person, there are 4-point validations. And for a charity, there's 5-point validations, which include EIN numbers that they submit to us. We validate that it's a real EIN number, that it's a real charity organization, and we basically approve them. But again, you got to be smart. You have to know who you're giving the money to. I encourage people to do all types of good deeds. Donation to charities, though, are typically general, right? I donate personally to JDRF Foundation, to Susan G. Komen. Charities, they collect money and they distribute it accordingly. You're hopeful, really, that your money is going to go to
The
and
direct
have-
impact. Yeah.
And very often it does.
Yeah.
But as a person who donated, you really don't know that. And there's really no direct accountability for that. So if you're going to donate just for your taxes, for a write-off, I get it. You're still doing a good deed. You're going to get a write-off on your taxes. That's great. However, if you really want to see accountability, that's a little bit difficult with charity organizations. We don't really replace any charities. Our goal is to be an active, accountable extension to all those charities. Charities would have their profiles on World of Humanity
Mm-hmm.
and create good deed projects that they organize. People and followers then of those charities would either participate or they would donate, and then they see their accountability for their money. So it's those charity organizations would have specific projects that they're working with. Charity water,
Mm-hmm.
bring a meal to
Sure.
an elderly.
Right.
There's a ton of organizations, and they're all involved, and they all have specific projects. Through worldofhumanity.com, you can actually see the accountability for each of those projects, and you could donate to projects specifically instead of directly just to the charity. And I mean, people give money, and they sometimes think that money goes in some void. It really doesn't. But you don't know that, and all you get is a thank you. And it actually discourages people to donate.
Mm-hmm.
So World of Humanity provides a very different type of engagement. And that's why I say it's an engagement platform. Charities structure projects either on a local level or on a large scale, and people donate to a specific project that they participate in. They see their accountability right away. They often see people's impacts on their lives almost immediately because they're really engaged in this project. It doesn't even have to be a donation. It can be some activity that they're doing, planting a tree.
Another issue is sometimes charities get too much of one thing. Give us an example of that.
Yeah. A good example is if you remember Sandy Hook,
Mm-hmm.
they had a project for a teddy bear drive. So people donated 60,000 stuffed animals. It's really wonderful to see that type of generosity, but really creates an administrative and operational nightmare.
Mm-hmm.
These organizers, they're understaffed, and they don't know what to do with all these items. Those toys usually end up at some other charity organization. It's not necessarily that it's bad, but it just, you want to give someone something, that's fine. If you want to give anything to anybody, that's okay. If you just wanted to send a teddy bear and you don't really care where it ends up, as long as you did something good, that's okay. But if your focus is to help and provide relief for that specific cause right now, it often doesn't turn out to be the case. In fact, the volunteers who were focused on providing this immediate aid to Sandy Hook victims ended up working on something that's not related.
Got it.
You know, with our tools, we provide this type of accountability. How much of each item we should bring. For example, if you're doing a food drive for a family in need, you'll know what that person needs. What are the people bringing them, when they're bringing it. You could put yourself on the schedule, like I said before, so the person who you're helping does not get, 5 dinners the same night.
It's a nice organizer. It really does help out. Now, what other benefits do charities have by using the platform, Michael?
So when charity organizers create their campaign on worldofhumanity.com, which is free to everyone, by the way, they can either make these campaigns private to their own followers, or they could expose these campaigns to whomever else they want who's actually using worldofhumanity.com.
Mm-hmm.
So this way, they can organically increase their membership and essentially really their donations. So because of this ability to be more accountable, more transparent, more and more people will be likely to donate. And very soon I'll be releasing tools specifically to increase donations and engagement. There'll be email tools and ability to analyze their effectiveness. That way their campaigns could be much more structured, much more analyzed, and people would engage in these campaigns.
I want to get into some things that you really, really want to stress because we are getting close to holiday time. It's just right upon us. We're here with Michael Feldman, president and founder of worldofhumanity.com, and you can check it out. It's really a great site, worldofhumanity.com. Then, Michael, give us an idea of some of the things that you'd like to stress here on KTU Cares.
People, they often wait to natural disasters or like the holidays they're upon us to provide support for people in need. And they really dig deep. But community leaders of every kind are being asked by their members, how can I make an immediate impact on someone's life today? How can I perform these single acts of kindness today? Worldofhumanity.com gives people a chance to make a difference in somebody's life. Not next month, not next year, but tomorrow. You can post a project on worldofhumanity.com in just 60 seconds, and then through Facebook, Twitter, email, encourage other people to help. It could be all kinds of different projects. You could have a charity drive for a cancer patient, meal deliveries for an injured vet, bringing a warm sweater to a homeless person living on Fifth Avenue, or even spending some time reading or playing Scrabble with an older person.
Yeah.
Anyone could be using the platform, or should be using the platform.
Sure.
Leaders, followers, religious spiritual leaders, charity organizations, celebrities, corporations, even politicians, people with influence. But most importantly, every single person who wants to do a little good should be using worldofhumanity.com. Some people ask, and I've heard that a lot of times, what can I do? I'm one person. How can I change this world? And I've been actually reading up on this. I'm not going to go into it because it's maybe a little controversial. But there's a scientific theory about collective energy. And if we just concentrate on our own good deeds, no matter how small or large, the collective effect will be tremendous.
Michael Feldman, president and founder of worldofhumanity.com. We've got about 5-6 minutes left in the show. Have you been using your own website, Mike?
I have. I actually have.
Wow, yes.
I practice what I preach.
Look at that. Yeah, you practice what you preach, huh? Very good.
And I'm absolutely using it. I had 2 campaigns that I created. My first campaign is called A Second Chance. So it's one thing to give like $1 or $5 to someone, to a homeless person on the street, or some leftover lunch, or even lunch that you just bought specifically for that homeless person that you just saw. They'll be grateful. But most people are hesitant on giving money to these homeless person because they think that they'll go for drugs or alcohol. It's a typical and really understandable concern. And people also have had hesitation giving them leftover food. Most think that's unsanitary, degrading, lots of other factors. How do you help that homeless person? The real question that we should all be asking is, what do they need? America is a very, very generous country. I would say the most generous nation in the world. And if we knew exactly what each individual, each homeless person needed, possibly there's a way to give them a second chance in life, to get out from the street. And I spoke to them, and that is what their primary goal was, to get out of the street.
So how do we know what they need, Michael?
So in my Second Chance campaign, for instance, I tried to actually break the stereotype of the homeless person as being a drug user, alcoholic, mentally unstable entity. People think of them and they bundle them as entities. They are people with first, last name, and they all have a story. And I'm not saying that there aren't any drug users or alcoholics or mentally unfit to be within the normal society, homeless people. But out of the 4 people that I've interviewed, 3 were perfectly normal individuals that had a series of very unfortunate events. And they deserve a second chance in life. And if we collectively organized and provided assistance so that these people could get back on their feet, it would be those lives that you've changed. Providing them just meals doesn't make sense. Think about it. What will a person do with more than 3 meals per day? I interviewed this woman. Her name was LaShawn Harvey. And actually, I interviewed these 3 sets of people. One, LaShawn Harvey, April and Eddie, and Shannon Brown. All had very interesting story to tell about their lives, about their recent events. All had their own need on how to get out of their situation. And I posted those needs on worldofhumanity.com. But to tell you the truth, during those interviews, there were about 4 passerbys giving them food. I mean, what are they going to do in all those food? They can't eat it all, and they can't take it with them to wherever they're going to go.
Mhm.
So they need things. They need socks. They need sweatshirts. They need essentials. And those essentials, toothpaste, deodorant, those essentials only they know. And without asking them, without really knowing, you're assuming things. And they're really grateful for when you're bringing
Mhm.
them this extra lunch, but they almost feel bad because they don't want to make you feel bad, but they don't know what to do with this lunch
Right.
afterwards, so they can't eat it.
Sure.
So I've spoke to all of those people, and it was really fascinating, and I posted their
Uh-huh.
story on the website, and I've asked people to bring what they really need. And they told me what they really need. One woman really needed a locker for 4 months because that's how long she thought she was going to need to get out of the streets. And the reason why she needed the locker is because she didn't want to go back to the homeless shelter.
Wow.
We don't know how dangerous these homeless shelters are, especially for women. So one of her gifts, biggest gift that she could have gotten, was a 4 months rental of a locker, small locker that she could store the goods that other people have given to her. How would we know that if we didn't ask them?
Didn't ask, exactly. All right, wrapping up this morning on KTU Cares. What a great show it's been. Michael Feldman, president and founder of World of Humanity. If you'd like, just a couple of more closing words, Mike.
So my goal here is to make neighborhoods care for their own and be the support system, help in any which way possible on an individual level. It's those neighborhoods, that's really what shapes the societies. This is the culture. It's here where real change happens. So I want to stress to invest your time in your local community, in your neighbor. Involve yourself with real projects. And I'll have a lot of them posted on worldofhumanity.com, but I want everyone to post their own community projects on worldofhumanity.com and involve all their neighborhoods, all their neighbors. Leaders should take advantage of worldofhumanity.com. It's free. Create and organize campaigns. Involve your community. Do good deeds. The world would be a much better place. I promise you that. And as I always say, karma is a wonderful thing.
Love it. Great show today. Michael Feldman, president and founder of worldofhumanity.com. Thanks so much for joining us on KTU Cares, Michael.
Thank you, Bartel.